Hello YouTube, and welcome to a brand new video on the channel. In this video, I really just wanted to talk briefly about the industry, or just like the gaming industry in general, and just I don't want to say the negativity surrounding video games, but just like the state of where video games are as I guess an art form, I guess, if you want to call it that, which it is. It is a form of art, obviously. But just like the state of gaming, where it is, where it's gonna be in the next couple of years. And so that's what I want to talk about. And so without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Okay, starting off, I really just want to talk about first, I guess, Nintendo. If you didn't know, and you probably did, Nintendo had a direct recently showing off the new Switch 2 and all its features and all the games that will be coming out for the console. And the presentation itself, like the actual direct itself, was actually pretty good. Like, I'm not a Nintendo fan, but the games that they showed off were, I would say, pretty good. They showed off a new Mario Kart game, which is supposed to be like an open world Mario Kart. They showed off they showed off Metroid again, obviously, which is coming out this year. They showed a new 3D Donkey Kong game, which I'm pretty sure there hasn't been like a 3D Donkey Kong game in like, I don't know how many years, but it's been a long time, so people were excited about that. And they also showed off like some pretty cool third-party games that will be coming to the Switch. I saw like Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy, some other games that are coming to the Switch. And they also showed off an exclusive From Software game for the Switch. And so that took me by surprise too. I didn't think we were going to get something like that. So yeah, the actual presentation itself was not bad at all. I actually really enjoyed it. It was after the presentation was done, and kind of like the smoke had kind of cleared, and we started to, I guess, find out more information that they obviously didn't talk about, and that was mainly just pricing. The price for Nintendo games. Obviously, we knew the price of. Well, we didn't actually. They didn't talk about. Actually, no, they didn't talk about the price of the console in the actual direct. We found that out afterwards too. And the price of the console, I wasn't really like surprised that much, especially like the Switch. What came out in like 2017, and that costed like $300. So like, of course, we live in different times. Like, that was like a long time ago. Even if it wasn't necessarily a long time ago, it was a long time ago. And so things have risen in price. Things have gotten more expensive over the years. And so the Switch being like $450 to $500 didn't really surprise me like at all, really. What really surprised me was the cost of the actual Switch games themselves. And we found out that, I guess, like, I don't know if it goes for both. I don't know if physical and digital will be $80, but we do know that, going forward, digital games for Nintendo will be $80. And so that's really, I guess, what sparked outrage against Nintendo, and people were upset about this. Gaming is already an expensive hobby to get into, and just upping the price of these video games, especially when we live in a time where just the cost of living itself is expensive. Just the cost of like getting by day, is expensive. And so like raising the price of these games, it's I don't know. It's definitely a move, and I get it to a certain degree, because obviously a lot of people want to blame Nintendo, and I don't know. I kind of see it from their side, because at the end of the day, it is a business, and your business has to make money. And I want to say it's necessarily the developers themselves. Obviously, they don't make these kind of decisions. It's obviously the people at the top, the CEOs, the investors, who make these kind of decisions. And so if you want to blame someone, probably blame them, I guess. But at the end of the day, it is a business, and the business has to make money. And so from that point of view, I understand it. But $80 for games now? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I do know that, like, because it's so interesting, because before we knew the cost of like Switch games, we were not making jokes, but we kind of were making jokes that like GTA 6 would be the first game to finally break like the $70 like mold that has been like set by like all of these like companies. Like, we were talking about how like GTA 6 could be up to like $100, and people would still buy the game because it's GTA 6. GTA 6 was the only outlier in the conversation about, you know, it being more expensive than other games because it's GTA 6. Like, that's basically it. That's basically the main reason, because it's GTA 6 and it's the most like anticipated video game, not even video game, the most anticipated like entertainment thing of all time, like in the past like decade or so. And so we kind of let that fly. But like, having every single game be $80 to like even $90, I heard that like some like the physical editions will be like $90, like for every single game, that seems kind of like excessive. And I don't know if I can get on board with that necessarily. But yeah, man, that's just like one of the issues that I feel like has been going on in the industry. Not even just I guess just talking about the industry, just like layoffs. Talking about layoffs, like, I know there hasn't been as much layoffs this year as there were last year. I feel like last year, and I think maybe like the year before that, there were massive layoffs of just like these game developers, people losing their jobs, you know, and stuff like that obviously sucks. There's no getting around that it sucks when, you know, when you're really passionate about creating video games. You know, you put your heart, sweat, and tears on working on like a project for years and years and years, and then you just lose your job, like all of a sudden. Like, that in itself is very, very scary. Like, I definitely, you know, for all the, you know, developers who lost their jobs over the past, you know, couple of years over, you know, layoffs and like businesses trying to, I guess, like save money or like, you know, or cut or whatever, just to, you know, make more money, I guess, or like whatever these investors or these businesses tried to do, or cut costs. It definitely it definitely sucks. I guess one example of, I guess, just like, you know, layoffs being a major like bummer is just like, I remember specifically, I don't know if this was last year or it might have been the year before that, but Tango Game, I think that's what they're called, Tango Gameworks or Tango something. The people who made Hi-Fi Rush, they were laid off, and I don't know, it definitely sucked, because from Microsoft's point of view, or I guess Xbox point of view, the game didn't sell well, or it didn't meet the expectations that they wanted to meet. And it's really it's weird, because like the way they marketed that game, the game came out exactly after it was announced. Like literally, like I'm pretty sure the day after, or like I think this, like the same day it was announced, it came out. And so it literally had zero to no marketing for it at all. And don't get me wrong, I played Hi-Fi Rush, and Hi-Fi Rush is a pretty good game. It's a cool rhythm game. I recommend you check it out. But like, I don't know, like when companies like expect like, you know, games to meet like a certain expectation or a certain like, you know, to make, you know, a certain amount of money, and you don't market the game, it's kind of just like, you know, that doesn't really make any sense. from a business point of view, but you know, I don't know. I think another thing that I want to bring up is diversity in video games. It's it's really fascinating because I think, I don't know, it's such a, I don't want to say I don't know, it's a very dumb, like, you know, topic, because at the end of the day, if your game is good, and this is how I've always felt, if your game is good, like, I don't care if I'm playing as I don't care if I'm playing as a man, a woman, a gay character, a trans. I don't care who I'm playing as. I don't care if I'm playing as a freaking giraffe. I don't care like who I'm playing as. If the game is good, that is all that matters to me. Like, if your game is fun, if your story is good, if your gameplay mechanics are good, that at the end of the day is all that matters. And you hear, like, specifically, like, you know, you hear people like say why a certain video game failed, or you hear why, you know, a game is not doing, you know, financially well, or, you know, or people are not playing the game, and you often hear, you know, terms like, oh, it's because their game is woke, or their game is, you know, trying to pander to the woke, or like whatever term they choose to use. And at the end of the day, like, stuff like that, you kind of just have to ignore, because it's not a real criticism. Not to say that, like, there are obviously some companies that do pander to certain groups of people just because they think, like, oh, okay, if we pander to X, Y, and Z group of people, oh, they'll play our games. And obviously that's just not how that works. Your whatever you're making still has to be interesting. Your characters still have to be interesting at the end of the day. But for the people who blame the downfall, just like the downfall or the reason a game didn't do well, basically solely on, like, you know, if the game is, like, if the main character is a woman, or if the main protagonist is, like, anything but a straight white male, like, you just see, like, a lot of people just, you know, because at the end of the day, if the character is good, if the character is interesting and fascinating, that's all that matters, at the end of the day. So, just like a little, like, side tangent that I wanted to bring up. So last year at the Game Awards, we saw Naughty Dog's new IP, or the new game that they were working on, and it's called Intergalactic, and it's like kind of like a it's like a space, kind of like a sci-fi type, bounty hunter type game. Like, it kind of reminds me of, like, Cowboy Bebop in a sense, like that, if you want to, like, you know, have that as like a comparison of what I'm talking about. But it was so interesting because there are already like groups of people who don't like Naughty Dog regardless, because of The Last of Us 2 and the choices they decided to go with that story, and, you know, everything. And so I already felt like there were already going to be groups of people who weren't going to like the game regardless of whether it looked good or not, like, in my opinion. But you just had, like, a lot of people just, like, hating on the game just because the main protagonist, and I know it's not like everyone who thinks this, but just because the main protagonist is a woman and, like, her head is shaved, and so, like, people automatically think the game is going to be bad, even though we haven't seen any gameplay for the game, even though we know little to nothing about the story. Like, people were already, like, so adamant about hating on this game already, and I just think that's super disappointing and super, like, I don't want to say disheartening, but, like, it just sucks that, like, I don't know, like, we can't, like, get over, like, certain things about certain game, like, because at the end of the day, if you didn't like The Last of Us Part 2, and I hate, like, just, like, the discourse that surrounds, like, The Last of Us, like, even me, like, I like The Last of Us Part 2. Like, I think The Last of Us Part 1, story-wise, is better than The Last of Us Part 2, but I did enjoy The Last of Us Part 2 as a game. But I do think that like it gets to a point where like, okay, if you didn't like the game, that's fine, because at the end of the day, you're allowed to have your own opinion. I know I'm going on a side tangent about The Last of Us now, but if you didn't like the game, if you did, that it's fine. It's your opinion at the end of the day. But like for people who just go out of their way just to like hate on something just because they didn't like a previous game, or they don't like Neil Druckmann because he's associated with this game and the last game, or like whatever. I just think that's really stupid, I guess. So all right, so going on into the last thing I wanted to talk about in this video. Excuse me. I really just wanted to, I don't know if my voice just cracked, I think it just did, but whatever. I really just wanted to talk about I guess live service games. Last year there seemed to be a plethora of, I guess, game companies or like developers trying to get into the live service kind of like trend, or the live service like gimmick. You saw it with Rocksteady with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. You saw it with who was the studio who made Concord? I can't even remember the studio who made Concord, but like Concord was a thing last year. And just so many of these like games who, and I touched upon this in like a earlier video I think I made like, I don't know, a month ago or like 2 months ago, but it's so fascinating like seeing these game companies trying to chase these trends, and it doesn't like, it's not even necessarily like the developer's fault, because there are some developers who actually want to make a live service game. Like I'm pretty sure the people who were making Concord wanted to make that game, like it just didn't turn out well for them. And the game didn't even last like 2 weeks before it was shut down, which is insane to me. But there are some developers who go out and want to make a live service game, and they're just not successful. And I don't know, you have games like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which I just feel, I don't know, I don't know how to even like describe how I feel about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Like I don't want to get like too into it, but like you just have like these games where you have like something like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which it could be like interesting and cool, but like they just fumble the bag in every single way, and just I don't know, like it's just definitely disappointing to see some of these companies and some of these developers try to even like I can't even like remember, like now that I'm actually talking about some of the live service games, like even some of the PlayStation themselves were trying to like push the live service formula, like or format, or like whatever. You had freaking Naughty Dog with Last of Us Factions, like they were trying to make a live service game, and they had to cancel that because if they did try to support that live service or like Last of Us Factions, they wouldn't be able to make story driven narrative games. You have freaking, I heard that I don't know if it was Blue Point or I can't remember the certain studio, but they were making I'm pretty sure they were making like a God of War or like multiplayer game or something live service or something like that. And it's just like, why, like who, okay, first of all, who would want that? Not saying that you couldn't do that, but like I don't know, it just seems, because I'm pretty sure there have been like, I'm pretty sure God of War had like a multiplayer like aspect to it or like whatever. So I'm not saying you can't do it, but like you just have these like ideas of like specifically PlayStation, who just doesn't seem to like get or understand why live service games are popular. Like you try to chase because you have games like Fortnite, and you have games like all primarily Fortnite, because I feel like Fortnite is like the main successful, I guess, like live service game that's ever done it, I guess. But you just have these companies trying to chase, you know, trends that like are not relevant anymore, like are not like relevant to what people want in this current climate of gaming, and you just end up having these games fail and, you know, not do well, you know, unfortunately. And so, you know, that's just, and people, you know, these games don't do well, and then like you look at Concord, like that game didn't do well and that company shut down, like literally. I'm pretty sure that was their first game. I don't know if that was their necessarily first game, but like that was literally one of their first major games, and the company got shut down after that. Like you just, that to me, that's just like super depressing, and like, you know, it just, that sucks, like really. So at the end of the day, is the video game industry doomed to fail, or like whatever? Is our video games, or is there gonna be a video game crash or like whatever? And you hear, because you hear that term a lot. You hear people say, "Oh, we need another video game crash," or "We need video games to," or like, I don't know, like, because I don't even know what that really means. I don't know what that really means. I know there was a video game crash back in like, I'm pretty sure I think it was like the 80s or 90s, and like like the specific thing I remember about that is like, I think the freaking, was it like like there was like an ET video game, and that like, I don't know if that necessarily caused the video game crash, but like there was some game that like, I guess caused it, or like whatever. But like, and I know that's when, you know, Nintendo released their console, and, you know, that's when I guess things got better for the gaming industry. I don't know if that's necessarily like, that's just my kind of understanding of it, like, but just are video games doomed to fail, or are video games like, you know, are video games gonna, you know, is the gaming industry gonna collapse, or like whatever? And my my answer to that is, I wouldn't say necessarily collapse, because at the end of the day, video games just make too much money to fail. Like we've gotten to a point with video games where video games are even more popular than movies or like TV shows. Like video games are more popular than a lot of other like entertainment, like, you know, things just in general. And so do I think video games will necessarily, like, you know, because we are in a rough patch for just like the industry in general. Like like I said, like, you know, talking about layoffs, you know, the live service thing, just like the negativity and the culture that surrounds video games. It does feel like there are more negative things to talk about video games than there are positive things. And there are positive things. You know, there are so many video games to enjoy and play. Like there have never been a plethora of games for any type of, you know, gamer. You know, if you're into indie games, if you're into, you know, AAA blockbuster type games, like there's still a lot of cool video games coming out, and there are a lot of cool video games that are going to come out, and there are a lot of, you know, in terms of like, I guess hardware, or if video games will get more technically advanced, I don't know. I feel like we have reached kind of a point where video games, just like on a graphics standpoint, or has like reached, I wouldn't say like a peak, but like we kind of have like seen, I feel like, the best of what graphics can like offer from like a video game, like whatever. And so, you know, just getting back to what I'm talking about, like, are video games doomed to fail? No, I don't think they are. I don't think, we're just really in a rough patch, or a rough area for video games, and how long we're gonna be in that rough state or rough patch, I don't know. But this is just where we are with video games and just the industry as a whole right now. And so yeah, man. you know, I guess just to end off this video, leave down, you know, your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Do you think the video game industry is, I guess, doomed to fail, or, you know, do you think the video game industry needs a gaming crash, or you think the video game industry is collapsing on itself? You know, give your thoughts and opinions. I want to hear from, you know, whoever watches this or comes across this video. And yeah, that's gonna do it for this, you know, video. If you guys enjoyed it, maybe consider liking and subscribing. And yeah, I will catch you guys in the next one. So yeah, bye.